The race to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta is fast taking shape, with leading presidential hopefuls jostling for votes. From facing the mountain to politics of economy, we look at the Uhuru succession race. Good evening, I am Abubakar Abdullahi. Welcome to Pundits Night. As always, your voice matters, so does your opinion counts. Talk to us, send us a message on 22047. The hashtag to use is Pundits Night. Just a reminder, as earlier publicized, who our guests are tonight. Professor Peter Kagwanja and Madira Lawmaker Rigathi Gachagua are our guests tonight, and they join us in studio. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for your time tonight on TV 47. All right, Professor, let me start with you. Given that we have seen an increase in political parties from Mount Kenya region, each seemingly suggesting as though they are pushing for the agenda of the region on different parties, at least small or big, is this a division to be cited, or is it just politics that is happening in Mount Kenya?
I think there are several reasons what you can give for the proliferation of political parties in the region. One, of course, is that there is a vacuum, that there's no major party from the region around which to rally or to wait for nomination, as we did with the Jubilee before, or PNU or NAC. So there is that vacuum. Obviously, the second reason is that most of the parties the major parties are coming from outside. This is UDA and ODM, and what that means is that there is still suspicion as to how are we going to be nominated in these parties, in these foreign quote-unquote parties not from the region. And because of that uncertainty, virtually everybody who thinks that they want a seat, a major seat, whether it's a governor or a senator, most of them have really formed their own parties. Therefore, you can also attribute the third factor to rebellion. Within UDA, definitely people like Moses Kuria, Mwangi Kiojuri are very vocal about this. They are rebelling against the monopoly of politics by UDA, and they have stated it very clearly. So there is that other factor. All right. But when all is said and done, the question will be which party is going to emerge, prosperous or rather successful, because these are more or less kiosks by and large.
Professor, in your response, you say there is no major party in Mount Kenya as of now. This is a region that overwhelmingly voted using Jubilee as its party, the party that brought forth the region's president, the country's current president. The issue is, and take it, you can take this to the bank. It is the president who determines the might of the party. When Kibaki left DP was no longer a major party. When he left NAC was no longer a major party in the region. When he joined PNU, 2 months to the election, PNU became the party. And when Uhuru Kenyatta formed TNA became the party. So it is more the candidate than the party that has mattered in the past. Now, the vacuum here is that now there is no candidate as competitive as Uhuru Kenyatta, as competitive as Mwai Kibaki from the region. I am saying this because I don't want to be accused of saying that some people are not candidates. I know Mwangi Wairia in Muranga want to be governor, to be president. He has billboards to that effect. I know Moses Kuria had said he would want to be. I do know that Madhakaro had stood before, and I do know for sure that Justin Muturi is a candidate. But I'm saying a candidate of the gravitas of Uhuru Kenyatta or Mwai Kibaki in 2022, we don't see them. And as I bring Rigathi to the discussion, is that to suggest from your end, Prof, that the president has left his own party then?
That is not what I'm saying, but the president is not a candidate in 2022. And his deputy, who would possibly have taken over the party, is not a candidate with the Jubilee. He has already made it clear that he has decamped to UDA for the purpose of 2022. I'm sure Mheshimiwa Rigathi here can explain that. But then what is happening is that with Uhuru Kenyatta not being a candidate, and UDA not basically, being the vehicle for the deputy, then Jubilee is orphaned. But I'm not saying that something cannot be done about Jubilee to make it viable.
And we will come to what can be done, Prof, in a short while in this interview. Let me bring in Madira lawmaker Rigathi Gachagua, who is equally with us in studio to the discussion. Mheshimiwa, similarly, the first question that I posed to Prof, an increase in political parties suggesting as though they want to front the interest of this region. Should it be viewed by at least outsiders as a division within the Mountain?
Not at all. Thank you, Abubakar. There has always been as many political parties. Some strong, unknown, some unknown completely. I'd like to disagree with the professor that UDA is a foreign party. Not at all. UDA is a national party. It's a party with support across the country and has a very serious following in the Mount Kenya region. You know, when we folded up 14 parties to form Jubilee, we wanted one strong party, and the people of the Mount Kenya region were in Jubilee. When we got visitors and the Jubilee got almost wounded up, most of us who were in Jubilee moved on to UDA. The UDA has very strong presence in the mountain. The Secretary General is Veronica Maina. She is born in Kangema and married in Kegumo. And you know the Secretary General is the agent of the party. Among the members of parliament who were previously in Jubilee, like myself, the ones who are leaning towards UDA in the mountain, we are 49. That tells you that the party has serious following. And wherever we go, in the countryside, across the mountain, you know, it is UDA. You know, there was a by-election in Ladan Ward, which is part of the mountain, the Nakuru County. We counted as part of the mountain, and Jubilee won. You know, there was a by-election in Kiamba, you know, Jubilee won. You know, there was a by-election in the Rodia Ward, UDA won. It means that the UDA has very strong linkage. In fact, UDA is Jubilee. You know, it's Jubilee actually. It's those of us who are in Jubilee.
And given that the Prof,
and we had problems.
And given that Prof says this is a foreign party based on, I want to believe, and I'll give him a chance to explain further, based on the party leader, at least as of now, is from Rift Valley, if I am to say that. That sounds foreign. If you are to judge it based on
it's not foreign. You know, foreign is when it is a tribal party. When it's a national party, you cannot talk of something being foreign. UDA has support across the country, and it has, in fact, the major stakeholders in the UDA party are the people of the mountain. And you know, parties, Abubakar, about membership and following. You know, Jubilee is there, but it's a shell. It's just a building. And when Raphael Tuju and David Murathe became arrogant and started expelling people, started threatening people, started summoning people, it happened what happened to Kanu. You know what happened in Kanu? He was with me in Kanu. At one time, Kanu chased people away. The ones who are outside were more than the ones inside. That is what has happened to Jubilee. And we want to say that let all parties compete. We have a multi-party democracy. We don't want to have one party. And there is no rebellion from Mwangi Kujore because he cannot rebel against UDA because he has never been a member. Moses Kuria cannot rebel because he has not been a member.
But given that they are on record, Mheshimiwa, saying that the region cannot be forced to be folded into one party, that's a rebellion.
Nobody is forcing them. UDA is there. Those who want to join a national party,
they are refusing to fold their
No, that's okay. There's no problem. Nobody, by the way, nobody has asked them to fold the party. And they shouldn't fold the party. What they must do and what they should do is build their parties, have candidates in the next election, then their strength will be determined after the outcome of the election. Then they can get into some post-election coalition discussions and agreements. But before you go for an election, for example, if you are to sit down with the TSP of Mwangi Kujore, how do you determine their strength? They don't have a single MCA. They don't have a single member of parliament. At least for Moses Kuria, he has a member of parliament, he has an MCA. You can start some discussion. But a party that has no known membership. It has no known elected person. The only definition that is a Mount Kenya party is that the party leader is from Mount Kenya. That is not enough to make it a Mount Kenya party. The way the party becomes part of Mount Kenya is when it gets people in the mountain elected on that party's ticket. Then you can say this party has a footage in the mountain. But before you get somebody elected, other than yourself, how do you determine that this party belongs to the mountain?
And just on the question of fielding candidates, I suppose that will include fielding a candidate for the presidential position as well.
Yeah. Of course.
Do you want them to field
what is happening? No, it's up to them. You see, if Mwangi Kujuri of TSP wants to run as president, it is a democratic right.
All right.
You know, the UDA has a presidential candidate. You know, any other party that wants to have a presidential candidate, they are free to do so, and nobody has stopped them from fielding a presidential candidate.
All right, let me bring Prof back to the discussion. Prof, you said it is a foreign party such as UDA, Madira lawmaker, who I believe, I don't want to preempt, will tell us whether you will vote on UDA or not, says it's not a foreign party.
Well, let me first of all make one point very clear. You cannot judge the strength of a party by counting MPs. If you come from Mount Kenya region and you know our history, 90% of MPs don't go back. In Muranga, only Alice Wahome went back as a member of parliament in the same seat. I do know Sabina Chege went back as a women rep, and I do also know that Kangata left his Senate seat, his MP seat for Kiharu and went to whatever. But essentially, the history of it, if you go from 2002 to date, actually 1992, you'll discover that between 85 and 90% of MPs elected don't return. So don't get surprised if UDA is now on this roller coaster. That it is as MPs and then it rules the MPs. That's a possibility. Obviously, the imperative of such a party is to maintain not only its MPs but also the support base. So we are watching. But in terms of whether it is Aryan or it's not Aryan, I think I can only make one observation. That I think what UDA is doing better than any other party currently, including ODM, is that strategically is ahead of the game. Strategically.
In what sense is it ahead?
That's why I want to clarify. It's ahead of the game. It knows very well that if it begins mobilizing from the Rift Valley, it is going to be caged as a Rift Valley party. Therefore, it kind of gets its support from Mount Kenya to front the fight. Just the way we did in Somalia. This is a KDF, but you want to have the Somalis do their fight. But essentially, the force that is behind this is a Kenyan force. I think UDA is inherently a Rift Valley party because the presidential candidate for the party is from the Rift Valley. But they know the danger of them being fronted by the Rift Valley because they'll be seen by an invader. So you have to recruit the marketers of the party from the area you want to capture. And the end game of 2022 is Mount Kenya. That's the end game. Because the 10.2 million votes approximately, that makes Mount Kenya is going to be key in that regard. And you have also seen that there is now move by UDA, and I guess it is not going to be emulated by the others, to split the Mount Kenya region into the east and west. The idea is not to divide and conquer, and therefore you recruit people who have a direct access to the candidate from Mount Kenya East, the Merus, the Embus, and the Dharakas and their brothers, and the Kikuyus on the west are now recruited from their own leadership. Those who were there during the Moi days, and I was in Kano with Mheshimiwa and so on, do know what the Kano strategy was. It has not changed at all. UDA is basically a cut and paste job for Kano. And
Prof, you say it is inherently a Rift Valley party, but this is a party that has won an election, a by-election in the president's political backyard. In fact, the entry constituency of the president's backyard.
I said, I blamed Jubilee for wrong strategy, and that's why I started by saying that UDA is ahead of the game in terms of its strategy. You've managed to ensure that President Uhuru Kenyatta is not an actor in Mount Kenya politics. You leave him at the top. So we are really talking about a hanging state. By a hanging state is that the power of the state does not reach the ground. Therefore, you leave the ground to UDA forces. And this is what you found with Moses Kuria won Juja over Uhuru in Kiambaa. It was 50-50, and I think the case is in court now.
Despite UDA winning, isn't it?
Yeah, the UDA won, but it is contested in court. But it was a very, very strong show for a new party which was coming in. And the president, I remember I wrote in one of my Sunday articles that this is one case where my father, or our father as we put it in Kikuyu language, Fafawito, and the father of the bread, Fafa Mugate, the one who brings the bread, in other words, who is sent, that Fafa of Mugate took the homestead. And because he has been too far, away for too long, children don't even remember him. So he has to come. But in Kiambaa, he even did not show up.
Right.
I argued had Uhuru Kenyatta stepped there and campaigned, it would have made a difference. But why would Uhuru have done that? He's not a candidate in 2022.
But at least his party was somewhat, in some way, on the ballot. He had a candidate through his party. Many would have ideally wanted him to be there.
There were so many. I would not want to open a Pandora's box of why Jubilee messed. We do know they messed. And if you ask Lafaro Tuju, he will give you a list of why it messed. And it also reflects badly on the management, political management of the Jubilee, particularly the pundits who are handling that. UDA would not have won that seat had Jubilee put its act together, even without Uhuru Kenyatta going in. But had he gone in and does a lot of things that were advised by elders from the region, this was a whitewash for UDA. But as fate would have it, we went to Kangema when TNA was formed, and we ensured we win the party in order to the seat that was left behind by the late Mechuki, so that you build the momentum. So what UDA is doing is to use the Kiambaa victory as to build up what you can call a momentum. But it sent the wrong signals. It sent the wrong signals because it appears that the region is being taken over, whether it wants or not. And that is not. That's why.
We will come to that and who is taking over the region. Let me bring in Madhira Lawmaker to the discussion. Mheshimiwa, the reason as to why we are having this discussion on the region is purposely because of the number of voters, at least people who at the end of the day will cast their ballot, God willing, in 2022. And this is a region that has been a determinant in shaping who at least ascends to power at the presidency level in this country. Will it be fair to say that, judging by what we saw of political leaders caught in that region, some, as Raila said, climbing the mountain, others, as the deputy president, claimed that anyone who wants the region should come to him? At least it seems as though it is an open ground to politicians. It's not a region that has entirely made its mind up on UDA.
Thank you very much. To start with, let me respond by saying that the president was right not to get involved in Kiambaa by-election. He has no business. The president, his hands are full. We have a country whose economy is run down. Public debt is beyond, we have passed the ceiling. We have so many ongoing projects that have stalled because there's no money to pay people. The president's, tray is full completely. I don't know where he would get time, ordinarily, to meddle into elective politics when he's not a candidate. The president should concentrate on his legacy that he needs to define, and define it very well. And he has so much to do that those who are asking him to get involved into by-elections in the 2022 succession are being very unfair to him. It is not that Kiambaa was mismanaged. It is Jubilee has lost traction. That was just one election. They lost in Gaturi, in Kiharu. They lost in Lakeview in Naivasha. They lost in Ladanwad. They lost in Rurie. They lost in Juja. They lost in Kiambaa. That shows you it's not just that Kiambaa was mismanaged. It's that Jubilee has lost traction because of being dictatorial and for the party madrins behaving like their own people and chest thumping. That is a problem. I don't want to say the mountain is divided. What we want to say is that the mountain is open to all presidential candidates, and that is the way it should be. Let everybody come to the mountain. You know, Raila has come the other day. He says he's climbed the mountain. Well, that mountain is so high you cannot climb it in a month. I mean, it's a very, very high mountain with very, very serious challenges on how to climb it. It is something that takes years. And the people of mountain are not electrical switches. You don't just stand up one morning and talk to a few people in a trading center and then say you have won their hearts. The deputy president has been there for the last 9 years, interacting with those people, getting to know them, getting to understand them understanding him, engaging with them. And that is the way it should be. So we want to say, you know, since the way Prof has said, we don't have a weighted candidate from the region. And I think a decision seems to have been made in the mountain that we are prepared to have a candidate from another region who has the right qualities, who can revive the economy, who can change the economic fortunes of the Mount Kenya people. So we are saying the fact that there is diversity does not mean there is division. Let everybody come. This is a hunting time. The hunting ground is there. It is ripe. Come to the mountain, explain yourself, interact with the people, sell your program, convince the people, and if you do so, on the 9th of August, they'll render a verdict as to whether they were convinced about your candidature or not.
So that will suppose to say then, Mheshimiwa, that UDA cannot completely say Central Kenya is backing it as a party. The mountain is still open to any presidential candidate, as you say. Nobody,
Abubakar, gets 100% votes in
any
region. Myself, I was elected overwhelmingly in Madeira. I had 54,000 votes, and I won. My competitor had 28,000 votes. Okay, what we are saying, nobody can say for sure that you have this region 100%. But what I'm saying is that from where I sit, and I'm an elected member of parliament, and I have been around for a long time, Abubakar. I'm a political scientist by profession. I understand politics. All politics is Rocco, and politics is the ground. When I listen to my ground in Madeira, my ground is UDA, and by the way, that is a party I'll be defending my seat. I'll defend my parliamentary seat on UDA. I'll be supporting a presidential candidate from UDA, and we'll be supporting other candidates on UDA, because when I listen to the ground, and I spend a lot of time on the ground, and being on the ground is very different from being in Nairobi, you know, sitting in offices and doing analysis. It's different. And very few people, will go against the ground. You know, very few people will go against the ground. And those who are seasoned like ourselves, we will align ourselves to the ground all the time. And for now, as far as I know, the ground is UDA.
The ground in Mathira, the ground in Central in totality?
In the region.
In the region. All right. Prof, as I allow you to respond to that, let me ask you this. How much of the disquiet between the president and his deputy has led to these fractious politics, at least that we see at a national level? Leaders elected in one ticket talking at each other.
I don't think it's a difference between the president and his deputy, which everybody seems to be saying, oh, the difference, and even the clergy, offering to mediate. These are ideological differences to the approach to the national affairs. If I am well, I'm an insider in many areas, and I'm also a grounds person. I come from Kenya, in Jero village. And I go there at least once a week or twice a week. Twice every week, sometimes once a week. And the reason is because I'm also interested in politics. I want to be a senator. So I'm going there quite frequently. I also come from Geda location of Maragua. And the reason I'm saying this is because there is this feeling that Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto were personal friends, and therefore they have now parted ways, and somebody can talk to them and they come together. The differences are like the heaven and earth. Why are they like heaven and earth? Because Uhuru wants to unify the country on the basis of the three communities that have divided Kenya over the last 60 years. If you look at the 1963 election, it was a Kikuyu-Luo alliance opposed by the Kalenjin, who mobilized the others, the so-called pastoralists. Now, when you come to the 1978, the 1978 period, there was a Kalenjin Kikuyu detente that pushed Moi to power, that alliance. Then from there, you look at 1992, it was, 2002, that transition from Kano. It was again Raila Odinga Luo and Kibaki from mountains, now again coming in. It appeared like the Kikuyu, but the Kalenjin were on the other side, also trying to get a part of the Kikuyu through Uhuru Kenyatta. Then you can almost say it has been like that until we reached Nusumukate in 2007, which was power sharing between the Kikuyu and the three communities. And within that, the Kalenjin exited. So, and now we have emerged in 2017 as 2013 as a Kikuyu Kalenjin with the rules out, so to say. Because these three communities have one thing in common. They are capable of mobilizing beyond their numbers. Two, they are what you can call political communities that tend to invest a lot in terms of resources, time, and so on in politics. So Uhuru Kenyatta wanted for the first time to bring a triad. And when you bring Raila Odinga, you bring Uhuru Kenyatta, and you have Ruto, you have the three communities together. Then you begin to talk about how do you bring other Kenyans in an inclusive order. That was an ideological approach, which you can trace back to Kano as Party of Unity. That was Kenya African National Union, Unity. Now, when you look at and that kind of an arrangement went very, very wrong with Ruto, who had this kind of idea that he was the crown prince. And the crown prince now is losing the crown. Because what does it mean? It means that he's not the automatic heir to Uhuru. Therefore, the politics of UDA and its supporter has been about, you are promised 10 years. That's what Kangata keep on saying in Muranga. When you promise 10 years, you cannot promise anybody anything because the Constitution does not allow you to give this. Kenya is not it's a personal property of anybody that you can promise, I'll own it for 10 years, then you own it for 10 years, or I'll be a director of this company for 10 years, then you become a director. No, it's the voters, Wanjiku, who determines who become the heir. So the succession, the idea of promise debate is basically an undermining the very essence of our democracy. Second, you argue that, we supported you, and now you have not supported us, therefore you are betraying us. Again, politics has no politics of betrayal, because when you are negotiating, you are given what you are given. Ruto was
Prof,
given.
when someone is publicly promised that they will be supported after they have supported who is promising them, at least you will expect there is a promise there to be either kept or, as it seems, to be invalidated. There
are conditions. You are not supported at all cost. If you cannot agree with me ideologically that we want to leave behind a united Kenya, and you want to govern a united Kenya where the rest of Kenya, whether they are Western Kenya, Nyanza, feel they are part of the republic, and you don't want that formula, what are we supposed to do? We have to go on with the idea, and that's what President Kenyatta went on with, that I am going to unify Kenya, whether I make it or not, it's part of the legacy. And he has done his bit. He has brought Raila Odinga. Remember, these were not good bedfellows, but you have to begin to treat every Kenyan as a legitimate child of the land. And Raila Odinga is a legitimate child of the land. You cannot, make a boogie that every time you want to win an election, you have to beat Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga has followers. And whenever you keep on demonizing Raila Odinga, you're basically drawing a wedge, or thrusting a knife through the republic, because it can never unite. So it is important at a certain time to tone down rhetoric and begin to talk about Kenya that is united, and Raila Odinga is part of the equation. Whether, whether he wins 2022 or not.
Fair enough, Prof.
The most important thing is that we have to tone down temperature. And that's what we have done. And
Prof, how do you reconcile the idea on one hand in which you describe as the unity of the country by allowing more people to come to the forefront, such as Raila, and the claim by the DP and his supporters that this was an intention to sideline him, which to an extent they say is what is happening?
But you're not being sidelined. Jubilee is there.
When his duties are handed over to other people indirectly, that's not sidelining, Prof.
But let's look at it this way. Jubilee was not taken over by ODM. Uhuru Kenyatta is still the leader of Jubilee. That's one point to make. Second point, you have to distinguish. I mean, if you are a scholar of war, as I am, you read The Art of War and other parts, then you understand very clearly what logic is being followed. The logic followed by UDA and Mheshimiwa Ruto is what we call conquest mentality. You want to conquer, and vanquish. And for this at the time is basically to win the hearts and minds without having to conquer. And that's why there is this collision. Because if you want to build a nation, as we are trying to do, you would want to be inclusive. You would not want to appear to be conquering. But if you begin to issue rhetoric that appears like you want to conquer, then you raise temperatures. And that's why you can see between ODM and UDA, the temperatures are high. And we are watching. And one thing is, every Kenyan wants to be included in their own right, not to be conquered, politically or otherwise. And that is what I find faulty with UDA. It is basically following a conquest logic rather than a mobilizational logic.
Let me bring in Rigathi Gachagua to the discussion. Mheshimiwa, Prof says this was a unity to bring the country together by President Uhuru Kenyatta as one of his projects through handshake with his then political rival Raila Odinga. Some have cited that as the beginning of the end of the Jubilee party, which still remains to bear fruit. Is it a sidelining or unity? How do you view it?
Abubakar, let's be honest. The handshake did not bring any unity to this country. The country is more disunited than it was before the handshake. Unless Professor is telling us that once you bring Raila on board, Raila Odinga is Kenya, Kenya is included. I said at that time, and I repeat now, you cannot build new bridges by destroying the old ones. You keep the old ones and build new ones. We would have kept William Ruto and bring Raila on board. When Raila Odinga was brought on board, he was brought on the strength of his votes. He did not carry along his coalition partners. And that is why they are refusing to support him. He left Kalonzo Musyoka, he left Musalia, he left Wetangula, he went and negotiated with Uhuru Kenyatta alone. So the two of them cannot be the unity of Kenya. Kenya is much bigger than the two of them. They shunted Ruto aside, left Kalonzo aside, left Musalia aside, and that is why the Oka principals have refused to support Raila Odinga because he should change them. He went and negotiated with Uhuru Kenyatta on the basis of the collective vote from their regions. And he had a very big bargaining strength, but he shunted those who helped him get that vote. Uhuru Kenyatta on his side shunted his deputy who helped him to get to the presidency. What the handshake has done, it has managed the impossible. It has destroyed Jubilee, the ruling party, and destroyed the opposition, NASA. NASA is gone, Jubilee is a shell. The country is more divided than it was before.
Rigathi, you say the country is more divided.
Yes, it's more divided
than it was.
It is more divided.
For a Kenyan who lives and lived in this country, who witnessed the Wednesday, Thursday demonstrations in many parts of the country, who saw the toxic level where the politics of the country was heading to, they will disagree with your thought that the country is more disunited.
But that was a temporary thing. You can see the political temperatures are building. The level of intolerance is here with us. and everybody is pulling in a different direction, you see. And Abubakar, you don't unite the country by chasing those who helped you ascend to the presidency. You keep those who assisted you get the presidency, and look for those who are opposing you at that time and bring them on board. You know, there's nothing you are achieving, yeah, by sending away those who supported you and bringing those who opposed you. You still go back to where you are. You know, one becomes the government, the other one becomes the opposition. There's nothing you are solving. So what I'm saying, and I want to tell Professor, if there is anybody who demonize Raila Odinga in this country, it's President Uhuru Kenyatta. It's not ourselves. In fact, ourselves, we are his students. He's the one who taught us to demonize Raila Odinga. There is no single name he did not call him. The things he told us about Raila Odinga, we believed them, and we still hold on to them. So you cannot say that we are the ones who are demonizing Raila Odinga. It is President Uhuru Kenyatta. He is on record, not once, not twice, talking about Raila Odinga. Number two, Professor is saying here that there are no promises, and that there are no promises in politics. That is deceit. What we want to stop is politics of deceit. President Uhuru Kenyatta stood before many public forums, and Abubakar is on record, and said, mine 10, Ruto's 10. We are not saying he should honor it, but we are saying it is deceptive to say he did not say so because he said so. What he should do is tell the people of Kenya, yeah, those things I was saying are lies because I wanted to be elected. I did not mean them. That is all you are saying, Professor. He was saying them because he wanted Ruto's vote at that time. Once he was elected and he didn't need Ruto's vote, then he says it doesn't hold. We want to stop the politics of deceit and the politics of betrayal, because it is wrong to lie to people for you to get your vote. He was saying that in the Rift Valley, and I believe he was saying so then to get that vote. Okay? Once he gets the vote, he shifts away from that position. That is deceit.
Rigathi, you say it is the president who led this condemnation of Raila Odinga in the central region.
Yes.
Given that from 2018, that tone changed, given that they are more than shaking hands, public hugs, referring to each other as brothers, a change of tone, will you believe the president tonight if he tells you all he said was just for politics? But
he needs to say it. He has not said it. And I'm saying,
but his actions,
Abubakar,
his actions suggest.
You know, he said those things. You can't say things today, then you cancel them by action or by body language. What you say in public, you cancel it in public. What you would have expected the president to do, we as leaders and the people of Mount Kenya region, was to call for a meeting and tell us, ladies and gentlemen, I said this and this and this and this about Raila Odinga. I was wrong for A, B, C, D. The man is described as such and such. I have found he's not that way because of this and that and that. Because we are also educated people. He can't just tell us he has changed his mind. He must give us reasons. He never did that. He went to Harambee House, shook hands, and expected us to follow suit without asking any question. And when we asked questions, we were told to be disrespectful. You know, we started asking questions. If we were told this is a madman, and then you say he's a good man, we ask which hospital was he taken for treatment? Because you must tell us, you know Abubakar, Kenyans are grown-ups and we are people who are intelligent. If today, Abubakar, you tell me never to come to this studio publicly, and I go away, you cannot simply tell me to come back without giving me the reasons why you told me to go away. You understand?
And I suspect you
can't just wake up one day and say, Rigathi, I'm here, you tell me to go away, never come back here. Then one day, you said your assistant, tell Rigathi to come back to the studio. You must first explain to me why you chased me away. And once I'm convinced that the reasons that you chased me away no longer exist, then I can come back to the studio. All we are saying is that the president could have been right in reaching out to Raila Odinga. But the president is not an individual per se. He's a president, he is elected by the people. He has a responsibility to the people who elected him. He needed to carry them along in that decision. he needed to carry them along. Because
you feel as though he has not carried.
No, he has not. He has not. He has not.
All right,
because
let me bring
he
Prof
did not
to
explain to us. He did not explain to us as to why he has changed his mind. If the things he said in public, if the way the professor says they were not meant to be, then he needs to apologize to us for having lied to us. But and then we can say it's okay.
Regarding the president is on record, I believe, in the National Prayer Day held at Safari Park, where he said all he said about Raila and his competitors was for politics.
That's he may have said that, but he needed to bring us along. Not in a prayer breakfast because we were not there. He needed to come back to the people. The people, he came to Karatina, where I am elected, and said so many bad things about Raila Odinga. He needed to come back to the same forum where he said bad things and start saying good things and convince us that what he said then was just politics. And I'm saying, Abubakar, we must stop the politics of deceit. You cannot lie to people simply because you want to be elected. You must be truthful. Because you see, if you lie on one front, people can accuse you on lying on all the other fronts. The president has made so many promises. If he breaks one and it is said it was politics, it can be assumed all the programs he promised, all the good things he promised were just politics.
All right, let me bring in Prof to the discussion. Prof, your reaction?
Now, first and foremost, let me make you laugh if this is something that is funny for you. I am sure the person who made a motor vehicle was a clever person. And he decided to make a small rear mirror. For you to see the back, you had these small mirrors and made a wide windscreen. So there's a logic to that. History is important. You must always look at it. Look at the back. But always look in front, because if you keep on looking at the back, you're going to cause an accident. So it's logical that Uhuru Kenyatta will be fixated on the future and not on the past. Our past was not good. We defeated Raila Odinga in 2013 on the basis of negative politics, him playing negative politics, and Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto playing negative politics in terms of basically polarizing the country. They were building on a worse legacy. By the way, let me correct Mheshimiwa, my brother here. It is not Uhuru Kenyatta who invented the insults for Raila. Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila were very good buddies. If you remember, they fought together in 2005 referendum. We are the ones on the Kibaki side. If there are people who are guilty as charged, ask Kiraito Morongi, he will tell you. If there are people, ask Peter Kagwanja. I'm the one who was the strategist for this. And we invented those names. We may not have uttered them ourselves, but we ensure that they were uttered because we needed a devil in order to win those elections. And we have told Raila Odinga, we are sorry, and he has forgiven us.
Has he?
He did forgive Kiraito. You didn't see them in the same car? Because we owned up to our sins. Uhuru Kenyatta is simply somebody who inherited our culture of basically demonizing. And at the same time, we brought in, we paired up with William Ruto in 2012. And part of the reason why we liked William Ruto is because he was very good in this, what you call satirical language. He said, yule mzee wa kitendawili. Yule nini. So he literally helped build this culture of demonizing Raila Odinga. What we said in March 2018 was that for Kenya to live and for us to live respectably, we need to talk. And the talk went on. And Uhuru Kenyatta explained very, very well in Bombers of Kenya. If you remember when we were the launch of the BBI, it was very clear that I consulted Ruto, I consulted Raila, and we were talking as elders of this land. But UDA people interpreted that this is basically taking away the leadership. So if the focus was 2022, the focus of the two, Raila and Uhuru, is beyond 2022, because Kenya will live long after we are gone. So it's so important to keep this in mind, that please maintain that the rear mirrors are small, but the windscreen is tight. and keep your eyes on the windscreen. I mean, don't look at the back because you're going to cause an accident.
But Prof,
Kenya is moving forward. Yes.
Prof, let me interject you there. As you say, Kenya is moving forward. In this attempt of moving Kenya forward, would have it costed anything for the president to at least move in that forward direction that you are saying with his deputy and bring Raila equally on board?
I don't think the president is the problem. It's the rebellion of his deputy. Remember, the word tanga was invented by the president because the president advised very clearly, let us finish with this manifesto which we have started. We promised Kenyans a Jubilee this March, but let's not start early politics. And then the deputy just jumped into politics from day one. And it moved on. And the president was very nervous about this. I need you to support me in implementing these projects. But then that did not happen. A new movement was born. First is Tanga, then it morphed into Hustler. And before you say Jack, we have a rebellion in Jubilee. And that rebellion in Jubilee had to be contained. But in the process of containing that, obviously, and the president is not a candidate, then Jubilee became a moribund party. I believe that if it were not for the rebellion of the deputy against his chief, Kenya would be okay. If the deputy followed the principal's advice that let's make peace with our enemies, and then we can have a peaceful 2022 election, which you can win or they can win, but Kenya will be stronger, then that would not have brought the parity that we are witnessing now. So I emphasize the word, and I have written about this many times. What we are witnessing in Jubilee is a rebellion of a partner against the principle. And this is not an issue in history. Rebellions are part and parcel of political processes. And Ruto is basically, so we talk about the Hasra rebels, the Tanga rebels. This is rebellion at its best.
Prof, you say this is a rebellion. Is the rebellion a byproduct of sidelining, as some have insisted on?
No. If there was any sidelining, he would not be a deputy today. And most of his ministers who are also in the cabinet today would not be there. There was no sidelining. What I think is, it was important for you to be a victim. Remember, in politics, what wins is victimhood. Until you create that aspect of victimhood, you can never win in any. If you're too mighty and too powerful and you are crushing everybody, people don't like siding with the giants, like siding with those who are oppressed. That's why we like Jesus Christ, because he suffered.
All right.
He was tormented. He was betrayed. All these words of betrayal, he was promised the kingdom, it never came. He was, that tormented person, that victimized is what win the popular view. And it was, if you remember, it was ICC that won Jubilee the 2013 election. Why? These were the tormented, these were the harassed, these were the oppressed. So Uhuru, Kenyatta and Ruto emerged from the ashes of 2013 because they were victims.
All right.
So Ruto has literally copied that script in history that you have to be a victim. And he's conjuring all these images of betrayal, then. And the Constitution has no idea of promises or this kind of thing.
Fair enough. Point made, Prof. Let me bring in regard to the discussion. Prof says a second in command who is a rebellion, who started campaigning early before his boss gave him a nod. In a nutshell, the DP has himself to blame.
Abubakar, Kenyans are not fools. Kenyans are intelligent people. What Professor has said here as an advisor to government is very interesting and is good for Kenyans. He is saying they needed the Ruto because he could check Raila. But his work is done, so they were just misusing the guy. They don't need him anymore. Now they need Raila to check Ruto. These are users. It's very bad to use people.
Not really.
He has said here that why they liked Ruto, at that time, he could be able to check Raila and make sure that things are moving on well. Once the job was done, and we have been telling these people, the time they realized that Ruto is not a good guy, they had the opportunity to change him in 2017 and pick somebody else. If they had a problem with Ruto, he's not a good guy, he's not obedient to his boss, they had an opportunity. But they waited until he helped them ascend to the presidency, and then threw him under the bus. That is politics of deceit. Number two, Abubakar. The deputy president has not staged any rebellion. The deputy president has been betrayed. When we were campaigning, Abubakar, nowhere did we tell the people of Kenya we want to change the constitution. Nowhere. We told them about the big four. We came, when the handshake came, we abandoned the big four and prioritized the BBI and changed the constitution. The deputy president in Boma said this is not a priority for the people of Kenya. The people of Kenya are having serious economic problems. The people of Kenya have different priorities. There is no way the deputy president would have supported changing the constitution because Raila has come on board, yet it was not part of the Jubilee manifesto. We have videos on record. Between 2013 and 2017, President Uhuru Kenyatta telling Raila Odinga to forget about changing the constitution is not a priority. Once they joined hands together, we abandoned the big four, we abandoned what we had agreed on, and we changed course, and Raila came and set a new agenda. And in the process, destroyed Jubilee as a party, destroyed NASA as an opposition, and brought all programs to an end.
Is it Raila who set the agenda?
He's the one.
The party leader of your party?
No. Before Raila came to our house, we were not talking about changing the constitution. Even Uhuru Kenyatta, between 2013 and 2017, he is on record saying that we have a constitution and we need to implement it fast. When these people came on board, you cannot say that Ruto betrayed Uhuru or he rebelled. People like Aden Duale, a guy who put his life on the line, for Uhuru Kenyatta and for Jubilee, he was put aside. Kipchumba Murkomen was put aside. Kimani Ichung'wah, he was put aside. Susan Kihika was put aside. Everybody who refused to agree to the handshake was put aside. The handshake became the new focus of our government. And when we look at it ourselves, it is amorphous. It is an abstract. It's not anything you can touch and feel.
Right.
We had sound programs, Abubakar, the big four, manufacturing, housing, food security, universal health care. Those are the things that were important to us in Jubilee. But when Raila came on board with his younger brother, they put that aside, said everybody must toe the line, nobody can stop reggae, you either ship in or ship out, and then they started a very serious purge. In the process, they killed Jubilee. They are the ones who killed Jubilee. They chased everybody away.
In your response, you make mention of members of the Jubilee party, whom you say, including the deputy president, who have been betrayed. But these are members, some will argue, were in open defiance of the president and at least his project of the handshake, and as Prof alluded to, one of living a united Kenya. These are members who, with slogans of dynasties and hustlers, created a somewhat division, and you still want the president to at least be smiling to them. One would argue that is a defeatist argument.
Abubakar, we could not have defied the president on what was not our agenda. The handshake, the BBI, the change the constitution was not part of the Jubilee manifesto. I would like somebody to put on record anything to do with the Jubilee manifesto that the deputy president or ourselves have opposed. What we are opposed to is dictatorial programs like the BBI, that you cannot ask a question, you cannot give a different opinion. In any case, for the record, Jubilee never took a position on BBI. Not a single day did Jubilee convene any single organ to discuss the BBI. The Jubilee organs, the parliamentary group, have not met. The National Governing Council has not met. The Annual Delegates Conference has not met. These were decisions taken by one person in State House, and everybody must follow without asking a question. And that is why we are saying this is a democracy. And we are not children, we are grown-ups. We are people who are elected, we are leaders in our own right. We needed to be brought on board by being convinced that this is the right thing to do. Even Jubilee did not take a position on the BBI. So there was no rebellion to the party and its leader on known programs. What people refuse is dictatorship. Anything that was brought in a dictatorial manner, pushing down the throat of the Jubilee people. We said, no, we cannot be forced. We must be consulted because we are leaders in our own right.
Fair enough. leaders in your own right. You say, but when the president, I suppose, is on record saying that some have started campaigning way too early, their appetite for power and politics has gotten on their way. The deputy president equally on record saying the handshake has derailed the Jubilee government. We promised Kenyans that, and we have not delivered them. Somewhat critiquing a government that is very part of the second in that government. That's an irony.
Abubakar, there is nothing wrong with anybody going around the country. There is nothing William Ruto has done between 2017 and today that is different from what he was doing between 2013 and 2017. He went around the country, and since he was then campaigning for President Uhuru Kenyatta, that was okay. But the minute the president got his second term, the guy was supposed to sit in office and go nowhere. We are saying also, President Uhuru Kenyatta started campaigning in 2010, 2011. 2012, I was part of that team. Not a single day did I hear President Mwai Kibaki saying that those campaigns are interfering with the service delivery. President Mwai Kibaki continued working and delivered a good economy for this country without complaining. He did not get involved in his own succession. He did not seem bothered to who is going around and who is not. And what we have been asking the president to do is that since he is on his last and second term, please, leave this 2022 succession. Just concentrate on your mandate. You have a mandate up to next year to do so many things. And so many things are not right in this country. They need fixing. You know, his hands are full. Where does he get time to deal with succession? He should concentrate on reviving the economy, finishing the ongoing projects, and prepare for a peaceful election and a peaceful handover. But as to who will succeed him, once he gets murdered in that, you know, there will be words here and there. And in my view, his hands are full.
Fair enough, Rigathi. The point made. Let me bring Prof to the discussion. Prof, an ambitious deputy who wants to be the president, who was once promised of 10 after the president's 10 years, who says he has a vision for Kenya post President Uhuru Kenyatta. Is it an unfair treatment to limit him to finish his term and allow others to campaign?
I think this is, the history teaches us that if you want to be clever and knowledgeable, you look at trends, and that's how you can judge the behavior of whoever you're working with. Ruto fell out with Moi, Mzee Moi. There are reasons for that. He must be very unhappy. Ruto fell out with the Odinga, who was his boss in ODM movement. Obviously, he has fallen out with Uhuru Kenyatta, who is his boss in Jubilee. And I expect that he's going to fall out with whoever else they are going to be together. So I think the fallout between Uhuru and Ruto was predetermined, because this is the trend, and that's history. That's one. And second, there is a history of rebellion, because if it doesn't work with you, then it doesn't work. Now, 2007 to 2013, Kenya emerged from its worst kind of history, where we were almost in a civil war situation. Ruto was on the other side together with Odinga. Now, Mwai Kibaki literally braved a lot of calls from his side not to give an inch of power. But he allowed, and he agreed, and I was part of that whole process. And we ran the so-called power sharing. And one will tell you that many of the achievements that we boast of today as Kenyans were made during the power sharing. Why were they made during the power sharing? Because we build consensus on both sides. It's not that Kenyans began to think the same, but they began to think about Kenya from wherever they are, and therefore we concurred. We made the new constitution, we grew the economy around that time, and we started the infrastructural projects which we have. Remember, Uhuru Kenyatta was the finance minister at that time. Therefore, you must have seen what is working and what is not working. Now, when Jubilee came to power, we continued the same politics of animosity. So how can you blame Uhuru Kenyatta for changing his mind and thinking that we need to put Kenya first. Why can you blame Raila Odinga for thinking that, yes, I've been an opposition chief for so long, I've taken these ideas of taking people to the streets, getting people lying on tarmac, doing this. Can't we change the step and think about Mother Kenya first? So the two men who were split in the middle, if you look at the returns of 2013 and 2017, they split Kenya through the middle. So it was only important that the two talk. Remember also, President Kenyatta was mediating several other conflicts across Africa. He was in charge of the South Sudanese process and had even appointed an envoy. And he saw what Riek Machar and Salva Kiir, what was dividing them was basically the fact that they cared about themselves and their politics and power and did not care about their nation. So that itself forced President Kenyatta to yield to the idea that Kenya is greater than all of us. It forced Raila Odinga to yield to the idea that Kenya is greater than all of us. So the handshake was not a personal choice for the two of them.
All right.
Uhuru had power. He didn't have to go to a handshake. Raila was the leader of opposition. He would have gone on with his opposition, wait for 2022, where without Uhuru, possibly he would have been stronger. So, what is the point? We are dealing with the aftermaths of a major rebellion by a deputy. And in the history of deputy presidency in the Republic of Kenya, we are going to write about the Great Rebellion. I think that's what is going to characterize 2018 to 2022, the Great Rebellion.
And Prof, you choose to see it as though it is a rebellion, not a second in command who is ambitious enough to be the president after the end of the term of President Uhuru Kenyatta.
When Brutus took the dagger and plunged it the back of Julius Caesar, what was in his mind was ambition. But it constituted a rebellion against the leader of the day. So ambition and rebellion, in fact, it is ambition or over-ambition. Ambition is you are right. If you are not ambitious, then you are not living. Ambition of ambition or obsession with ambition is what brings about rebellion. And rebellion brings about destruction. So what is we are trying now to do is to ensure that the Hasra rebellion does not become a rebellion against the country, and it is contained within the election mood, and we move on as Kenya. And then we can write that history of the Great Rebellion of 2018 to 2022. It is actually a great rebellion. And the fact that Ruto has survived as a deputy president and quasi-leader of the unofficial opposition is an achievement in itself. I have never seen somebody who is able to eat your cake and have it because you are in government and you can talk about the government like it belongs to the other. You are the second in command and you can talk about the other side. The government is with others.
Prof, it's fair to say it's fair to say equally that he at least brags and publicly says he brought the government into power, campaigning for the president. So he has stakes in this government. Let me give Rigathi Gachagua the closing remarks.
First and foremost, disagreements among leaders is a normal thing in politics. And I don't think Professor is being fair by saying that that is Ruto's character. If disagreements are to define character, Raila Odinga tried to overthrow the government of President Daniel Moi in 1982, causing bloodshed in this country. He fell out with Kijana Wamalo in Ford, Kenya. He fell out with President Moi. He fell out with Mwai Kibaki. He fell out with Uhuru Kenyatta. So if we are talking about history of people, falling out, I mean, the history of Raila Odinga is much, much, much bigger. I want to tell Professor that William Ruto is not a vice president. The other vice presidents were appointed and they served at the mercy of the president. And the president could tell them to do what he wants and they had no choice but to do it. William Ruto is the deputy president. He's not an appointee of President Uhuru Kenyatta. He was elected. I went to vote and I found the name of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. I put a tick to the two names. William Ruto enjoys a mandate of 8 million Kenyans. So if Uhuru is unhappy with him, that does not mean that the people who elected him are unhappy with him and therefore he should quit.
So he has the government.
No, listen.
He has the government.
Wait a minute. What the president has decided to do is using the constitution is to sideline his deputy. But the constitution, the way it was designed by the framers, is such that he cannot kick him out. And the president doesn't have the numbers to kick him out. They have been looking for those numbers for the last 3 years. They have not been able to find them. In fact, if those numbers were there, he would have been impeached a long time ago. But they don't have the numbers. So what Ruto is doing is that he has decided, since he has been stopped from performing his official duties, his duties were assigned to Fred Matiang'i. The only duty he performs today is during the national celebrations to go and welcome the president. And he does it. Any duty he is given by the president, he does. That's the only duty he has, only. He has no other. But I can say, you don't expect William Ruto. When President Uhuru Kenyatta met William Ruto, he was an active man. He was all over the country doing harambes. He cannot change his style because Uhuru Kenyatta does not like his style. You have told us you liked him because of what he was doing for you. The reasons that made Uhuru Kenyatta like Ruto still exist. That he's an active politician, he's a strategist, he's a man who is ambitious, and Professor, there is nothing wrong with ambition. Even Uhuru Kenyatta is an ambitious man. That's how he became president. So what I'm saying, Abubakar, let me finish, Abubakar, is that Uhuru Kenyatta should leave William Ruto to pursue his dream. He should leave the people of Kenya to make a decision as to who will be their next president. He should concentrate on winding up his days, try to revive the economy, see whether he can bring Kenya back to where Kibaki left it, see whether he can finish the little ongoing projects, and leave the people of Kenya to make a democratic choice as to who is their next president.
And that dream of William Ruto is to succeed his current boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes.
In a government that is already the deputy, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. Prof, less than 30 seconds.
I think what we need to recognize is that Raila Odinga is a legitimate child of this land. And demonizing him for centuries or for decades is not helpful. I think we need to tone down rhetoric and focus on issues. I can tell the UDA campaign is continuing to say that man of this and that and that. I think we need to give him a break and basically accommodate him as such. That is what Uhuru Kenyatta did. He said, I can do business with this person because, like me, he's also a Kenyan. So let's not begin to say that just because you have worked with Odinga, then you have joined the arch enemy or the arch devil. Let us begin to consider every Kenyan as having an equal right to be a leader in this country. Right. And therefore, we sell our policies without having necessarily to focus on other people. Raila Odinga is a legitimate child of this land.
William Ruto too is a legitimate child of this land. He must be given an opportunity to pursue his dream, and he has done nothing wrong by wanting to succeed his boss. It is his democratic right, and he too is a legitimate child of this land, and he should not be demonized too.
And at that point, we will have to end tonight's edition of Pandit Night. Professor Peter Kagwanja, Madira Lawmaker Rigathi Gachagua, thank you for your time tonight. And that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of Pandit Night. I am Abubakar Abdullahi on behalf of the entire team that made this production possible. Bye for now. The discussion continues online. Good night. God bless. Tonight of all nights. Good night.
We value your feedback. If you would like to send questions, comments, or suggestions for your favorite TV47 shows, call us on telephone number 0740 047 047 or email us at